Let's face it, ethical perfection is virtually impossible to achieve. Who hasn't driven over the speed limit, cut the tag off a mattress, or found themselves on the wrong side of the law in some minor way? Who hasn't checked his or her personal email at work, shopped online, made personal phone calls, or used office equipment for personal use? Even the most ethical person faces these dilemmas. Sure, there are clear-cut rules about appropriate use of company resources, but you may sometimes feel uncertain about where you stand ethically. Fortunately, in most workplaces, there's a principle called occasional use that keeps the majority of workers from losing their jobs for simply checking their online auctions during their break or dropping the kids off at school with the company car in an emergency. Occasional use means just that. You can use company resources for personal use as long as the use is truly occasional. Unfortunately, as companies grant occasional use to promote peace, harmony, and convenience at work, employees always seem to find ways to push the boundaries. Before you use the company printer to make party invitations or fax personal documents to your accountant, you need to have a crystal clear understanding of what your company's policy is regarding occasional use. It is your responsibility to know this information without being told. Policies can vary widely depending on whether your company is a public entity, large corporation, private company, or family business. In fact, there may be no allowance at all for occasional use. Stay informed and do not assume anything without fully understanding what your company's policy is. If your employer does allow occasional use, you need to exercise good judgment and responsibility so that you can't be accused of abusing the privilege. Herein lies the key principle: using good judgment. This is where most of us get into trouble. Countless employees have ended up in the unemployment line for surfing the web or using company tools occasionally, while others have gotten off without a hitch. Although both kinds of employees did the same thing, the unemployed one showed bad judgment regarding the circumstance, context, or who was present. Good judgment considers all these things as well as subtle things such as mood, workplace culture, environment, and atmosphere. Since every situation is different, you must take the most conservative, careful approach possible. It's always better to take the time to ask, think, and adhere to a minimal use policy rather than push the ethical envelope. Remember, if your occasional use looks bad in any way to you, then it looks 10 times worse to others. Let's look at some simple guidelines. First, your occasional use should be truly incidental and reasonable in duration. Incidental means that your use is by chance, irregular, or unintentional. As a rule, if you have to spend more than a few minutes doing something personal on the job, then you should wait until your break. Second, your occasional use should not adversely affect your job performance or be a distraction to others in any way. Your employer pays you for your time and expects you to give your full attention to your duties. If your activity gets the attention from others or distracts you, then you cross the line. Third, your occasional use must not support a personal business or aid a competitor in any way. This is a hard line that should not be crossed no matter how minor the use. Absolutely no time or resources or second jobs, side businesses, or outside consulting should be done at any time at your work without permission. Fourth, any occasional use that involves illegal activities or could be construed as offensive, such as viewing or creating sexually explicit, hateful, violent, or threatening material, is strictly prohibited and has no place at work. Now, pushing occasional use too far can be considered theft. All the stuff your company provides you to do your job has a specific purpose and boundaries for use. Allowing occasional use should be considered a privilege and is not a right. With that privilege, you have the responsibility to behave wisely and use the best judgment possible. By allowing occasional use, your company acknowledges that you're a human being with personal needs. It's a normal, healthy accommodation that makes for a more pleasant work environment and a stronger employee-employer relationship. As long as you don't forget the meaning of occasional, then you're pretty safe at work. Just don't expect the meaning of occasional to prevent you from getting a speeding ticket.